But great to have folks here. Montrose, it looks like you have a full house. Appreciate that. Hi, Karen.
Hola.
How are you?
Muy bien, gracias. ¿Y tú?
Muy bien, gracias. Gracias. Hi, Carrie Seifert and lots of other folks. Karen Dubé wearing the stylish hat today. Appreciate that. She's worn mine given the glare that's coming off of my screen here.
Eric just got his hair. He just shaved his head.
Yeah, Derek, I was going to say, I like your haircut.
You don't have to be the Canadian. It's all right.
Yeah, Todd's telling me there can be silence, and I don't know what he's talking about. That's never worked for me. So, anyway. 10 o'clock?
Yeah, let's give it just 60 seconds here.
Okay.
And we'll go.
Hi, Rita.
She's
Way behind.
Yeah, jump on in, Joshy.
There he is in the black and the yellow colours at the bottom of the picture. Rifle now goes in red.
Please mute yourselves if you're not contributing so that we don't get the weird feedback that sometimes happens.
I was going to ping you last night, Todd, to be extra nice to the air traffic controller. He's a client of Kathy's form. Well, Kathy had a family emergency, so she asked him off.
Yeah, I was telling them this morning. It was a little bit of interesting.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know that it was that.
I said they were like, you are attending tomorrow. Yeah. At least the plane. You can stay.
Hi, Todd.
Hi. How are you, honey?
Good. How are you?
I'm great.
That's okay. It's my glasses.
I think you need a vote for Baby.
Yeah.
Did you get too hot like Baby? That's crazy.
Pretty much. I looked in the mirror and I'm like, you look like a cartoon character. It was all mushroomy, so I just shaved it.
It's because you're the manager's giving so such a hard time. I saw that.
Yeah.
They were making fun of your hair.
I know. The managing directors, this is all because of you. Thanks a lot, guys.
I think mostly it was, by the way, where are we, Bozeman? At the sales meeting today, did we confirm that we are in fact going to be doing something to Jeff's hair?
When the baby's born?
We're supposed to do something to Jeff's hair.
Say it again, Ash.
What are we supposed to do when the baby's born?
Oh, well, during our meeting yesterday, there was some question about what kind of contest we could run, and the winner would get to do with what they wanted to his hair. So.
Boy.
All right, so we got 2 minutes after. Let's go ahead and get this started. So I am in Sun Valley, obviously. Kevin, where are you today?
I'm actually sitting in my dining room getting ready to leave on a business trip to Texas.
Texas, all right, awesome. So for those of you that don't know Kevin Risen, I've known Kevin now, oh gosh, I think probably 8 years, I believe it is.
Yes, yeah.
Actually, he knows Keith Everett from much farther back. When I first met Kevin, I can't even remember what position he held within the Coldwell Banker NRT offices in the Denver Front Range area, but over time he's occupied many of those. One of the things that's so great, excuse me, is the Denver NRT offices are without question some of the most innovative and cutting edge offices within the National Realty Trust organization. And NRT is the #1 largest, most successful operator of real estate companies in the world, most of which are Coldwell Banker offices. And the reason we've asked Kevin to come and talk today is because not only has he been very instrumental in what the NRT Front Range Denver offices have looked like, both from a cultural perspective, from a value proposition perspective, and how they articulate that value proposition, but he's also very, very in tune with what's going on in the industry as a whole. And that's very, very important for each and every one of you, whether you be an agent, whether you be an assistant to an agent, marketing, whether it be a leadership position, understanding what the industry is doing and how it continues to fragment even more becomes critical to how you make sure that you're relevant for the future. And so I really appreciate, Kevin, you taking the time. He has been asked now, and I'll let him kind of tell you the scoop on his position, but he is now traveling the country, working with other Coldwell Banker NRT offices, helping them to become more like the offices that Kevin manages. So with that, Kevin Rising.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Good.
I wish I was up there in the hills today. It's supposed to be 99 degrees here in Denver, hotter than Las Vegas. So you guys are lucky to have the chill of the mountains today. I thought I might start off just by sharing with you kind of what I'm going to talk about when I go to Texas. As Todd mentioned, I am the Vice President of Operations for what we are calling the Reinvention. So we're going into all 36 NRT marketplaces and reevaluating commission structures, listing marketing, contact management, and just making sure that we have our value proposition in place for every one of these markets. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Inman. Probably a lot of you. A lot of you are probably subscribers. There was a recent report that Inman published. It's called. You can look this one up. It's called "The Real Estate Industry's Evolve or Die Moment," and it features a guy by the name of Anthony Hitt, who's the CEO of Engel and Volker's Americas in New York City. And one of the quotes I remember from his report is he says, "If you try to be everything to everyone, you'll be nothing to no one." And we have really taken that to heart here in Denver Metro, where for years we've just kind of taken things in. An agent will say, "Hey, Keller Williams is doing this, Realty One is doing this, Sotheby's is doing this," and then we try to go about, appeasing that agent versus trying to develop what we already have and really do a good job of doing that. So that's kind of our focus. It was the opinion of the author that this is the evolve or die moment that we are experiencing right now in real estate. For the last decade or so, it seems like we've had constant conversation about major disruption coming into the industry. And for the most part, it's been there, but not as serious as we're seeing now with companies like Purple Bricks. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're a British company, Extreme Discounters. All of these companies that are coming in now all seem to have a lot of money. And so I think it's important for companies like ours that want to do the traditional way, that want to do the relationship type of marketing and real estate selling with their clients that we believe that the client deserves. That's not to say that we will be the only ones, but I do think that there is a place for us into the future. This report itself talks about exclusivity being very important, that's something that we need to focus on. Having your value statement and what you're all about, not just for your agents, but also for the consumer, is going to be extremely important in this new marketplace. Here's a quote from Brad Inman: "Whatever your brand, whatever your niche, the way to success through disruption is to own it in every way possible." So think about that as you go forward. I know that Todd has done a good job with that. We've had conversations about his focus. I think we're aligned in many ways. In summary, this report talks about two future models. One will be transaction-based. That will be a purely transactional-based brokerage that automates the entire home buying and selling process without agents. There will be brokerages that fit into this segment. They'll have agents, but they'll play a very diminished role There'll really be more like a call center operation, manning 24-hour, 800 numbers, and letting tech lead the way with relationships to their clients, versus the other model, which is where we're going to fall in and what we're going to focus on, which is the personalization model, where we will be rooted in relationships with human interaction, with tailored one-on-one services. The most successful of these brokerages will leverage the best of technology to elevate the brand experience to every client, both online and offline, through technology, etc. I don't know how many of you are familiar with a company called Compass. They're making waves. They have a model right now where their focus is 2020 by 2020. And what that means is their goal is 20% market share in the top 20 major U.S. markets by the year 2020. And they have a value statement that says to improve the lives of agents and make them more money. That's really kind of the summary of the article. I really believe in everything that I read there and mentioned to you. I do think this is a time to really get our systems together, our way of operating and our way of doing business, because the good old days of real estate, I don't think are necessarily going to go away. I think there's always still going to be those individuals that want that really good service. If you've ever heard of I call it let's make sure I get my math right here. I think it's the 75-15-10 rule. So 75-15-10. 10% of the population will always go to Walmart. Not saying anything wrong with Walmart. I'm just saying that's just the way they think. They're never wanting to pay more. If they can't get it at Walmart, they're not even going to buy it. 15% of the population is only going to go to Neiman Marcus and to high end. You can't talk to them about anything else. They like having the brand, and they can't wait to tell you that they spent all that money. The other 75% of the world recognizes value. So they can go either way. So that means that we really are focused on what the majority wants, which is a value proposition. What are they paying for? What are you delivering in marketing? What's unique and different? And what kind of a relationship are we going to have as we move forward?
So as we look at how the companies and the number one company is really paying attention to value proposition and making a statement, hey, we're either going to go and be the discount side, right, which is going to have less agent involvement, or we're going to go the other way. We're going to say, hey, listen, our value is going to be very, very clearly stated. We're going to work diligently then to increase our technology capabilities, our marketing capabilities. Is that where you're going when you say
exactly?
That?
Exactly.
So
Yes.
from an agent perspective, what questions should the agents be asking of themselves and their own personal businesses that fall along the same lines to make sure that they don't fall prey to those discount brokerages?
I think that's a really good question, and I think it's important for agents to realize that even though the real estate market today is a lot different than what we've experienced for many years, where things maybe go a little faster than we're used to. The temptation might be to say, well, if I list it on Thursday and it's sold by Sunday, I really don't want to spend the money on marketing. That is absolutely the wrong decision to make. We need to, as agents, be focused on who we are, what our brand is, personal brand. What do we stand for? We want to be known into the future. If you're an agent, you want to be known as that person who does market, the person who is going to spend the money, who is going to try all the different avenues possible to make things work. Because in reality, even though we're in a very, very busy market, in Denver Metro, 20% of these deals fall out. And so it's nice to have a marketing plan that's going to take place into the future, whether it be an upcoming magazine ad or a TV spot or whatever you guys do in your local marketplaces. I just think that really good value thought out marketing is going to be very, very important from now into the future for all agents.
And so when you say so that's a focus for them should be their marketing plans.
Yes, yes.
Okay. What do you think is going to happen with so, we all know the stats, right? There are 87% of the agents that are currently licensed won't be licensed in 5 years, right? So that's a huge failure rate. What do you see happening to the number of agents in our industry over the next 5 years as this sort of technology disruption continues? Is that going up? Is it going down? What's happening to per person productivity?
I think that that's another really good question, because I think that there's two things to consider. One is, will the population increase because they're latching on to companies that are really offering nothing and not expecting anything, and so it's okay to do a deal or two? Or will the market change? Once the market changes, I think you will see a shrinkage in the total population, as well as some of the discounted companies that don't have deep enough pockets to stay alive. Because it's easy to say, come on over here, we're not going to offer you anything, we're going to give you all the money you want, do whatever you want, no supervision, no meetings, no anything, when the market's hot. But when things change, and you actually need marketing, and you actually need a plan, and the agent has to get into their personal pocket because the company's not doing anything for them, that's when I think you'll see them either switch maybe to the dynamic companies like us, or get out of the business altogether.
And so are you seeing that then as a future from a consumer perspective? So as a consumer right now, I've had a conversation with somebody in Bozeman yesterday, and they were saying that one of their friends actually just went for sale by owner, and they got 3 offers in 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
He's like, what do I say? What do I say to that during a market that's that in fuego? Are you saying sort of the same thing then from a consumer perspective, that right now the consumer is sort of giving life to these sort of EXP or Cherry Creek or Silver Creek companies of the world, but when the market begins to change, they're going to be looking for more value from their agent?
Yes, and I think it's also important for us to explain to the consumer that what's really important is not what they're paying us. What's really important is what are we delivering to them. So a classic example that I like to use, and probably most agents have something similar to this. I live in a multifamily unit in downtown Denver by Coors Field. I'm a big baseball fan. I can walk to the game. And so there's 28 units in this complex. The one next to me is exactly like mine. So we all buy at the same time. The original owner next to me was an absolute disaster. And the people that came in there after her was a physician, really bright guy. Bought the house for a really, really discounted price, and then ended up selling 2 years later. They listed with a discount broker. I saw her in the garage one day, and she says, "Oh, I'm so happy I sold my house, and my broker really, really did me a solid. She only charged 4%. Well, I didn't say anything because ethically I couldn't get myself involved in the transaction. All I could do is nod my head like you're doing right now, Todd. And I went back into my house, and I was very disappointed. Not only because that became a comp for me, but in reality, they sold the property. They only paid $490. So they were delighted to get $560. But the market had changed so dramatically that they should have gotten $660. So they focused on the 4% they paid and lost what? Another $70,000. That's an extreme story, but they're out there. And that's what's important. The value that we deliver, not just in what we charge, but how we know how to get things done, how we know how to price the property, and how we focus on being a really good fiduciary to our principal.
Wow. That would suck.
Yeah.
That would really suck, yeah.
So at the risk of putting myself in an awkward position, what?
All right. Because that never happens.
Like what is NRT focused on right now as a company delivering to their agents that we as a company should be really paying attention to and should be our focus? Can we rip off and duplicate from you? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, absolutely, absolutely. So one of the things we focus on in these markets that I go to, so I'll be going to Texas later on today. I'll be in Dallas, Houston, Austin, and back on Friday. Part of these meetings, we will take 15 to 20 minutes, and we will ask our managers, who I speak to, about a value delivered proposition statement that we want them to memorize when talking to agents. And it goes like this. At Coldwell Banker, we are singularly focused on having our agents live exceptional lives. And we do that by focusing on core 4 values: production power, coaching to confidence, culture of awesomeness, and wealth builder. We do that better than anybody else in the market. If you're like most people that I talk to, assuming I'm talking to like an agent that's not with me, then you're probably interested in making more money, keeping more money, being a little bit more efficient, having a little fun along the way. And maybe you'd like to be with a company that could celebrate your success in a fun and fresh way. Do any of those things resonate with you? That's the statement. We like them to get it done in about 45 seconds. And it's real. And all of these things, I know, Todd, you've done similar things with your company in terms of value proposition statements. And the goal for us is to deliver on every one of those promises. We know, for example, go ahead, I'm sorry, Todd.
Sorry, no, what were the core 4 again?
So the core 4 are production power, coaching to confidence, culture of awesomeness, and wealth builder. Let me talk about wealth builder for just a minute. We all know, those of us that are in the real estate business or have been in the business for a while, that real estate professionals make more money than a lot of professionals. In many cases, they make more money than doctors and dentists and attorneys. But statistics show that when they retire, they're some of the poorest people around because they're not doing what they need to be doing with their money. That's where Wealth Builder comes in. We're going to provide our people with an annual Wealth Builder Expo, where we're bringing in accountants, we're bringing in financial planners, we're bringing in people to teach them how to invest in real estate, how to buy and how to leverage the business, how to create real wealth instead of just earning a lot of income. And, you know, I think we all know people that are in the business and make a lot of money, and then April comes and they haven't paid their taxes. Little things like that. So we want to be the source for the education. We want agents to join Coldwell Banker and join our company because we're focused on taking care of them and looking out for their best interests.
Tall order. Thanks for that. That's great. I will definitely meet you later on that one.
Good.
So I love that you've got it down to 4, right? And everybody, I know that I'm dominating all these questions, but here literally in about 3 minutes, I'm going to ask you all to start asking questions because that's what he's here for. But I love that you got it down to 4 very specific things that you are going to deliver as your value proposition to agents. How can the agents, or what are you doing to help the agents then sort of create that same thing? I mean, is there a core 4 for agents?
You mean a core 4 for agents that they would deliver to the consumer?
Consumer, yeah.
Yeah, that's we haven't gone that far. We do have a package that we call Listing Concierge, where we say to the agent, you're going to do a lot of things in marketing, but if you saddle up with the company, we can spend and buy things that you can't have, that you can't do. So we have a program that allows them to put a property on the television, be in a high-end magazine like 5280 or Colorado Homes and Lifestyle. We'll do direct marketing to their client. We have a virtual brochure box. And every time they decide to grab that program, all they have to do is check a box to get it done. We'll spend $1,600 on it. They spend $400. That's a real good value proposition right there. Now, we don't want them to say to their client, this is only $400, because it's not. It's really $2,000, $2,500. It's a real value statement. So we're trying to give them the biggest bang for the buck so that when they go out on a listing appointment, they're truly differentiating themselves from everybody else in the market.
So when you say differentiation, because we hear that sometimes, we do marketing packages as well. And sometimes what I'll get from an agent is, hey, listen, I want differentiation. Like, I want differentiation. So
Right.
what I'm saying is differentiation is, as a company, you're differentiated because of the marketing.
Correct.
The in addition that you do is the actual differentiation of the
Yes.
agent. Okay. All right.
Right.
Okay. All right, questions? Who's got some questions for Mr. Rising? And he's a lot tougher than he sounds, all right, just so you all know. So,
what is a virtual brochure box?
That's a great question. So think of the typical brochure box, that gets up in your area, probably mud and snow, or the paper boy takes the flyers and they're gone in a week, or you're always asking the seller to go ahead and replace the flyers. We have a program, it's really an 800 number. So there's no brochure box. There's an 800 number. It's a rider on the sign. If a consumer calls that number, they instantaneously then get the brochure with all the pictures right on their phone immediately. And the agent is notified that they've called. So it's really, really slick. I can get you information, Todd, on the company that provides that.
please, thank you. That's beautiful. I love that.
Wow.
And sellers love it too, because trust me, they don't like going out there replacing those brochures. They just don't like it.
Text this.
No.
Yeah, but see you can. Nice.
So I have a question. I'm Robert Chilling up in Vail.
Hi, Robert.
Hi. We are given, or we have these packages. We call them CB1, CB2, CB3 for different types of properties. And it is a great value, but how much more should we be thinking that we should individually invest in doing marketing in addition to those CB packages?
Well, I think it depends on your individual market, Robert. Kind of have an idea of what others are doing in and around you. If you're hearing of things that are unique, or the seller brings it up from a previous presentation that you were competing on, I would just kind of be aware of that. One of the things I always like to do when I was selling is if I got the listing, and I would always ask my seller if I could get the presentation from the other brokers. Usually when you win, they're willing to do that. So that would give me a tip on how you can find out what others are doing. But I don't know that you need to do much more. I mean, unless you've heard something from, you're probably competing up there a lot with Vail Associates and with Sotheby's, right? So what kind of, are you seeing things from them that are like, wow, I wish I could do that?
Oh, some very sharp direct mail, and then pieces, and then also some very strong presence in the newspapers.
Yeah, okay.
Just that, yeah. So anyway, that's what I.
Yeah, we are totally out of the newspaper, and have been for probably 7 or 8 years. Incidentally, now it's a little bit different in resort markets, I think. So I think that's a fair thing to consider.
Thank you.
You bet.
Robert, are you on this call? Yes, Beck? Okay. An agent from Steamboat submitted a couple questions to me, Kevin. And he, like probably everybody on this call, and you're probably sick and tired of using the Z word, but wants to know your thoughts about Zillow, given the noise they're making, and what your thoughts are about how to combat that potential monstrosity.
Well, Zillow's here to stay. They are not going anywhere. The question as to whether or not they will eventually be a real estate brokerage is up for conversation. I don't think they'll go that way personally. I think that it's a lot better to, their model is great. You know, they're getting referral fees. They don't have to have big buildings around that, you know. But how do you handle it? How do you work against it? I think it's always a tough question because they're either too high on their estimate or they're too low, one way or the other. It's never good. But I think you just need to let the sellers know that you as an agent are aware of that. Either you're involved or you're not, or you have other alternatives from different sources. But I think they're going to be a factor for a long time.
Just what everybody wanted to hear. Thank you, Kevin. That was
Okay.
Hey, Kevin.
Yes.
This is Mark here in Grand Junction. So we have no snow and mud down here, like ever. And it's very warm. But I did want to ask, how are your people in your offices dealing with web leads? I mean, is that a really big part of their business plan, or in your markets, is that something you guys have moved maybe away from a little bit?
There are people that are concentrating on web leads. I think I see it more with newer people. And I think they compare the web lead prospecting process to almost like relocation. So it's very expensive, but their thought process is I'm going to get involved. I'm going to get clients in this manner, hopefully then to get referrals from those clients without referral fees. So they're going to build a base like an agent that would only do relocation and then do, you know, a lot of other business. So I don't think it's a bad way to go. They just need to realize that it is what it is. And, you know, it's found money, if you will, because you wouldn't have had those people if you weren't involved. People make a mistake with that sometimes. Like, well, I paid too much for that. Well, you didn't pay too much for it because you would have never gotten it. So it is what it is. And also something that's into the future. So it's a lot different than when I started in the business, where it was, you know, door knocking. There were no computers, you know, and
I was afraid you were actually going to date yourself. I almost stopped you and said, no, stop. But yeah, did you have to press real hard on the contract?
Yeah, oh yeah, we had to press real, and it was one page.
Yeah.
If you can believe it, a one-page contract with carbon paper underneath. And it was fun. It was fun. But the prices were $78 too.
Karen, stop it.
Little mimeograph machines.
All right,
Thank you, Kevin.
What I heard you just say about online was, there's a place. It's expensive. It's really it's not a loss leader. It's I'm going to do this. I'm really going to make a great return on investment. The first go, I'm not going to be planning for the, you know, 4th year, 5th year, 6th year of my business as they're selling those properties. I'm not having to pay for those leads.
Correct. And as long as you're aware of, you know, kind of the online rules, you have to be on it. You can't let, you know, that lead comes in, you need to call them immediately because you're competing with a lot of other people. So 15 minutes is too long online. We need to be within 60 seconds to make that work. And I think people appreciate that.
Yeah.
I like that pink shirt, by the way, Mark.
Thanks. Gave you all a good view as I wander around the office.
There you go.
Crash and thought I was going to
I
swap
was
it.
watching a Dead or Alive video for a second. Hey, Kevin, would you expand a little bit on one of the 4 components you said was the culture of awesomeness?
Yes.
I try to convince my son that that's what he lives in, and he's like, Dad, I don't even know what you're talking about. That's a little bit how I feel when you say that. So what do you think of as a culture of awesomeness? Okay,
so within the culture of awesomeness, we have the following bullet points. So we have an annual awards gala. Our people, if they do 18 closed units, we give them a night at the Broadmoor with a big celebration. It's a small little 20-minute presentation followed up by a party with either a DJ, food, heavy appetizers, and a fun night at the Broadmoor. That's in the culture of awesomeness. We have quarterly on-track recognition events. where each quarter, and we vary our units based on whether you're an individual, a partnership, or a team. We've got coming up right now, there's a concert at Court Field with Journey and the Pretenders. I can't remember the other band. It's a big deal. The people that qualified this last quarter are going to that. We've taken them to comedy shows. We'll take them to the theater as long as they qualify. We also do a referral rewards club. So if you help us grow the company by referring agents to us, and you get 2 people per year, you get a night. And we typically go to Vail, get a night at the Sonanol. All they had to do is get us 2 producing agents for the year, and they get that. And then, of course, Gen Blue we put in there as well. So those are some of the things that that we put in under culture of awesomeness. In addition to the fact that they get to talk to me from time to time, and that's just awesome.
Well, it can't all be awesome, but so these are essentially perks that production.
Yes.
You get.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
And then can you run through and kind of do the same thing? So what's production power? So
production power. Let me pull that up here, actually. Okay, so under production power is our listing rewards. That's our comprehensive listing marketing program. Our ASP, which stands for Agent Success Package, that includes industry-leading tools, services to protect their errors and omissions, insurances in the ASP. What we call CB to Go, which is a personalized listing and transaction management service. So we've hired a company that does transaction management, and then we make them ours. We don't own them, but if an agent is looking, agents come up to this a lot, where they're somewhere between 20 and 30 transactions, and they're thinking, I think I need an assistant, but I don't want to pay him. I think that's going to cost me $40,000 or $50,000. So we have this thing called CB to Go, where they can one-off a deal. So why don't we just try this service? Do 1 or 2. You're not committed to anything. Do it as you feel too busy. If you feel overloaded at 5 closings and maybe on your 5th closing, you give that to the transaction manager. And then also under production power would be just what we call our core tools. Office 365, In Touch, powered by Market Leader, their personal website, Moxie Presents, Market Reports, Cole Realty Resources, and all that stuff. So under production power, listing rewards, agent success package, CB to Go, and core tools.
And what are you guys doing? From a coaching perspective, what are you all doing? And are you seeing
coaching? All of our managers have been trained as coaches throughout the year. Some of the newer ones have not had the same training, but we are doing. We have partnered with Chris Leader, who comes in every other year and does a session, and then he offers up individualized coaching for a very reduced fee. I think it's as low as $150, $175 a session. The reason we like Chris is because a lot of people will partner up with maybe Buffini or Ferry. All these people are good people. And they all have good intention. The problem is sometimes they're not aware of what Coldwell Banker offers. And because they're not aware of what Coldwell Banker offers, sometimes they lead agents in the wrong direction. And so here you are paying for a coach, and your agent's getting advice from a Keller Williams person who's telling them to join Keller Williams. So that's a problem. And then our managers are non-competing and available for coaching. Our biggest office, Denver Tech Center, Tammy Miller, coaches as many as 50 people a month in that office out of her 250. And it's really true. One-on-one, what are you doing? What do you need to be doing? Sometimes just sitting down with an agent and saying, you know, you need to take more time off. Let's take you from 50 deals to 30. What's your wife's name? When's the last time you talked to her? You know, these types of things. And sometimes they need that. They need that direction. It's not all about getting them to make more money. Sometimes it's just about, this gets you to have a better life.
What are you seeing from a production standpoint and from just a success standpoint? What are you seeing from those agents that are engaging in the coaching?
Much better. They just seem to be more engaged. They're in the office more. They're taking advantage of the tools. When agents are engaged, when they take advantage of our marketing programs, when they meet with their manager on a regular basis, it just seems like they're lifetime Coldwell Banker agents. They really see the value. And I can almost tell you who's not going to stay with the company. If you're not seeing agents, they're not using any of the tools, then they're going to be probably poached by somebody and go in the wrong direction, unfortunately.
Anybody else have any questions?
I had one more from an email, Kevin, and this might not be your wheelhouse, but of course, when I said, hey, he's going to talk about the future of real estate, someone wants to know, what you're predicting or what NRT is generating for, what are the next 2 years? Is there a correction coming? Are we about to go like this? What are your thoughts about national trends in terms of real estate in the market, which is great right now?
Well, it's certainly market specific. I'm starting to see a little bit more conversation about, are we in a bubble? Are we not in a bubble? I feel like in order to have a bubble, you have to have air into the balloon, and air is inventory, right? So I think as long as the inventory remains low, the supply and demand, I don't think we need to worry about a bubble. But again, that is market specific, because you guys all know, everybody on this call knows that your markets in your resort towns are a lot different than Denver. That's always a lot, you're not exactly the same, for varying reasons. So there could be things that happen that we don't know into the future, something dramatic. Let's hope it's not a 9/11 tragedy that can put everything upside down. But we're already seeing increased interest rates. And I think, speaking from a Colorado standpoint, I think we probably still have another good 2 years before we need to worry about depreciation. But I do get concerned when things start getting into double digits. If the average person is only making an additional 2 or 3% a year, and appreciation is going up 10 or 12, you can see that's a problem. If you want to know what market's going to fall next, it's the one that's at 25, 35. I remember going to Vegas years ago, and they had 45% appreciation in 1 year. The next year it crashed. You can almost tell when it's too high. I wish I knew the answer. I'd have a lot more money today.
Well, that was pretty good. Yeah, and so, I think it's also interesting because as you guys look at it, right, so the bubble is always speaking to value of a property, right? So $1 million property is going to be worth what next year?
Right.
Many of us from in the real estate industry, we're seeing a reduction in the number of transactions because we have a lowering of inventory levels. So our bubble for our personal income and our personal businesses are different, right? So I think one of the things that we all talk about is, hey, listen, the inventory in the MLS is down at this point. Our listings taken are up. We're outpacing the market. This is great. You've got to keep an eye on what that means to your personal business.
Exactly. Yeah, it's hard to increase sales when there's not inventory to sell. There is, I do believe, a rental bubble across the country, particularly in downtown Denver right now. So if you are an individual in downtown Denver and you're trying to rent a property, and let's say you want $3,000 a month, so you want first and last month, you want $6,000 down, you're dreaming, because the millennial can go across the street. My son is moving back to Denver, and we looked at a place, the deposit was $100. $100 with the first month free, because the competition is so severe.
Wow.
And that is happening in other markets as well.
All right, so Kevin.
Yes.
The one thing, right? So here we are, we're 6 months through the year. We're spending a lot of time talking about, hey, listen, y'all put together your goals for 2018. Are we there? Are we 50% of the way there? What did you do that was working? And what are the areas that wasn't working that you need to take as opportunities? As you travel the country and you're engaging with, how many thousands of agents agents are in NRT?
Oh, that's great. I think it's like 80,000.
Okay, so when you're dealing with your 80,000 agents,
yeah,
and their managers, what's the one thing that the agents on this call need to be focused on for the next 6 months to really finish this year strong?
Well, I think the one thing the agents need to be doing for the rest of the year, probably every month of their life, is making sure that they're talking to their sphere every single month, not just mailings, actual phone calls. And if you're doing events, Todd, if you have things where you're mailing around saying, hey, here's an event we're sponsoring, remember that the purpose of the event is to generate a phone call. It's so much easier. I always thought it was tough to pick up the phone and say, hey, Todd, you thinking about moving? Nobody wants to make that call. But it's a lot easier to say, hey, Todd, I sent you some information on the Jazz Festival. It's next Saturday. We've got a special little seating arrangement for all of our people. Just want to know if you're going. And even if you're not a very good salesperson, 50% of the time, you're probably going to get yourself into a real estate conversation. You called about the Jazz Festival, and the consumer says, hey, I'm glad you called. Grandma's getting up there. She needs to move her property. We need to talk. That's the whole purpose of the call. And you just want to be relentless in that, making sure that you are just checking in, saying hi, how's the family, just that basic, the telephone still is probably one of our best tools.
Awesome. Well, Kevin, thank you so much. It's just a huge honor. It's funny when you say the number, right? And here we are, this little 300-person company, and you guys are 80,000 plus. Wow, that's amazing. So thank you for taking the time. I know it's
absolutely my pleasure.
And giving us some great insight. If people wanted to connect with you on social media, do you live there?
Absolutely. I'm on Facebook, Kevin Risen, R-I-S-E-N, spelled like risen, pronounced Risen. I'm also on Twitter. I'll warn you there. I might make you mad. I'm a little more political on Twitter than I am on Facebook. So Facebook's probably your best bet. And you can also call me if you want to. My cell phone is 720-277-1452.
Wonderful. Again, thank you so much. And folks, before you get off this call, I want to make sure that you guys are aware the next call that we're doing, we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to have a little contest on listing presentations. And as you know, right, we've got the global luxury listing presentations. It's the baby in the box kind of deal. And then we also have the Coldwell Banker Distinctive Properties listing presentations. We are going to ask some of the agents to compete and give their listing presentations live right here on Zoom, and allow us to learn from some of the best in the business, and then we're going to vote and figure out who wins. So be on the lookout for that. When is that?
It'll be this Friday at our fan club. So it's
this Friday?
Yeah, it's right around the corner.
Oh, okay.
We can move it.
Yeah, I think it needs to be moved. Let's not do it this Friday.
It'll be tomorrow.
We'll send some stuff out because we want to get a little bit of time. But be on the lookout for that. I think that's a great opportunity, especially from like market to market, right? To learn about what other people are doing to succeed. And who knows, maybe it'll increase your production for 2018 and increase your listings, and you might learn something. So thank you all for being here. You'll receive an email with the recorded version. And again, Kevin, if we can do anything for you, please let us know.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Kevin.
Bye-bye.
Brisket for us in Texas, all right? Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.